Psychologists say some kids don't just grow up. They outgrow childhood quietly, almost invisibly. No dramatic moment. No spotlight announcement. No one sits them down and says, "Hey, you're the adult now." It just happens. One day, they look around and realize someone has to be the responsible one, and it might as well be them. They stop being the kid who gets comfort. They become the one who gives it. They learn to stay calm in chaos. They solve problems no child should ever have to solve. On the outside, they look mature, dependable, unshakable. Teachers praise them. Siblings lean on them. Friends call them the rock. But here's the thing nobody sees: they didn't wake up one morning magically strong. Their nervous system adapted. Their brain rewired itself. Their own needs got pushed aside so everyone else could survive. And by the time anyone notices, they've forgotten what it feels like to simply be a kid. This is the psychology of a child who grew up too fast, and if this hits a little too close to home, you stick around. The rest is going to shine a light on everything you never realized about yourself. Let's start at the beginning, that quiet, almost invisible moment when childhood slowly slips away. Psychologists have a term for it: parentification. And no, it's not just about helping with chores or babysitting a sibling. It's when a child is thrust into the emotional role of a parent before they're ready. Expected to manage their own feelings, and sometimes everyone else's too. Maybe they had to calm a stressed-out mom. Maybe they had to shield younger siblings from tension they couldn't even process themselves. Maybe they learned early that crying didn't fix anything, it just made things worse. So their brain did what brains are built to do: it adapted. They began suppressing needs. Not because they were dramatic. Not because they were too sensitive. But because it wasn't safe to express them, and survival demanded it. They learned to stay calm under pressure. They became problem solvers. Mature. Responsible. The old soul everyone admires. Teachers probably called them impressive. Adults probably said, "Wow, you're so strong." Here's the truth they don't see: they weren't born strong, they became strong because there was no other choice. And when you grow up learning that your feelings come last, that lesson doesn't just vanish at 18. It follows you. Quietly. But here's where it gets really interesting. That early responsibility? It doesn't stay locked in childhood. It evolves, sometimes into something almost unrecognizable. When a kid can't count on steady support, when comfort shows up sometimes, then disappears, their brain makes a decision: don't depend on it. Developmental psychology calls this early self-reliance. Not the cute, "I can tie my shoes" kind. This is survival-level independence. They stop asking for help. They stop expecting anyone to show up. They figure out how to handle things alone, even when they absolutely shouldn't have to. Because needing someone and not getting them? That pain cuts deep. It teaches a lesson no child should ever have to learn: trust is temporary. Support is conditional. As adults, these kids look unshakable. The ones who stay calm in a crisis. The friend everyone calls at 2 a.m. because you're just steady. Grounded. Solid. But inside? It's different. Trust feels fragile. Support feels like it has an expiration date. Even when someone genuinely shows up, a quiet voice whispers, "Don't get used to it." They don't lean. They brace. And the wild part? Most people admire this strength, without realizing it was built from survival, not choice. But here's the twist: growing up too fast doesn't just create strength. It also creates imbalance. Here's where things get complicated. When emotional growth is rushed, it doesn't develop evenly. Psychologists call this split maturity. Some parts of you shoot forward way too fast, while other parts never really catch up. The result? A strange, sometimes painful mix. You might be incredibly wise, responsible beyond your years, the friend everyone turns to for advice, the one who can read a room in seconds. That old soul energy people admire, but inside? Confusion, guilt, A quiet emptiness you can't always explain. Because while you learn to care for everyone else, you never got to learn how to safely need someone yourself. You didn't practice leaning on others. You didn't practice being messy, unsure, or vulnerable without consequences. So part of you feels grown, solid, mature. Another part? Still waiting for the childhood you never had. You can handle responsibility like a pro, but intimacy? Rest? Letting someone truly see you? That can feel disorienting. Even scary. Half of you grew up in fast forward, while the other half is still stuck, waiting for a time you never got to live. And this split doesn't just live in your mind, it lives in your body, because when calm never felt safe, your nervous system learned a very specific lesson. Remember that split we just talked about? The part of you that had to grow up fast, while another part never really got to be a kid. This is where it shows up in your body. For kids who grew up too fast, rest doesn't feel like rest. It feels suspicious. When you were younger, calm didn't always mean safe. Sometimes quiet meant danger was coming, an argument, tension, disappointment. Your nervous system learned to stay alert, even in peaceful moments. That alertness sticks. Now, as an adult, even when bills are paid, deadlines met, and chaos gone, you still feel on edge. Sitting down to relax? Your brain scans for problems. Your body tenses. Calm feels alien. And here's the kicker, you feel most valuable when you're needed. Fixing, helping, carrying, that's when you feel grounded. Worth something. Alive. Just existing? That feels uncomfortable. Almost wrong. Psychology calls this chronic stress adaptation. Your nervous system got used to pressure. Peace became unfamiliar. And when rest feels foreign, guilt often sneaks in. Because if you weren't allowed to fully need as a child, what happens when you try to need now? Remember that split we just talked about? The part of you that had to grow up fast, while another part never really got to be a kid. This is where it shows up in your body. For kids who grew up too fast, rest doesn't feel like rest. It feels suspicious. When you were younger, calm didn't always mean safe. Sometimes quiet meant danger was coming, an argument, tension, disappointment. Your nervous system learned to stay alert, even in peaceful moments. That alertness sticks. Now, as an adult, even when bills are paid, deadlines met, and chaos gone, you still feel on edge. Sitting down to relax? Your brain scans for problems. Your body tenses. Calm feels alien. And here's the kicker, you feel most valuable when you're needed. Fixing, helping, carrying, that's when you feel grounded. Worth something. Alive. Just existing? That feels uncomfortable. Now here's where it really hits. Attachment research shows that when a child carries early responsibility, they often develop a quiet, almost invisible belief, if I'm being taken care of, someone else must be burdened. Think about that for a second. If you grew up watching a stressed parent, or felt like your needs added pressure, your brain connected the dots. Needing equals costing. Wanting support equals making things harder for someone else. So you minimized yourself. You didn't ask for help unless it was absolutely necessary. You apologized for things that weren't even your fault. You said I'm good when you weren't. You convinced yourself you could handle it all alone. And now, as an adult, that pattern doesn't just vanish. You feel guilty resting. You feel awkward asking for support. You downplay struggles because others have it worse. Even when someone genuinely wants to help, your body tightens. Receiving care feels unfamiliar. Almost unsafe. You might over-explain your needs, as if proving you deserve them. The wild part? You'd never treat anyone else that way. You show up for everyone. You give freely. You hold space like a pro. But when it's your turn, that's when the internal conflict kicks in. And yet, despite all of this, there's one trait that often becomes razor-sharp in people who grew up too fast. It's empathy, but not the soft, easy kind. After everything we've covered, early responsibility, survival independence, guilt for needing, something else emerges. Your emotional radar becomes next level. Growing up too fast sharpens awareness. You sense moods before anyone speaks. You feel tension the moment you walk into a room. You read subtle changes in tone, expression, posture, almost automatically. Because as a kid, reading people wasn't optional. It was survival. If you could anticipate a problem early, you could prevent it. If you could sense stress, you could adjust yourself. Stay small. Stay helpful. Stay safe. Now, as an adult, this translates into extraordinary empathy. You understand people deeply. You're the friend who just gets it. The one who notices when someone's off, even behind a smile. But here's the hidden side. That empathy comes with armor. You care, but you stay guarded. You help, but you don't fully open. You understand emotions, but protect your own. Because you know what it costs to care without protection. You've lived it. And psychology? It doesn't label you broken for growing up too fast. It doesn't say something's wrong with you. It says your nervous system adapted early. You learned responsibility before safety. Strength before softness. Healing isn't about becoming weak. It's about slowly teaching your body. You're allowed to rest. Support isn't a trap. Needing doesn't make you a burden. So let me ask you, did you grow up responsible for more than a child ever should? And are you still carrying that weight today?